Oh my goodness. This is the same paint that I used on the alternator bracket. It does clean up pretty good. So just for like a before and after, they turn out nice when they're done. I'll just let that dry. That'll be 2 coats. I painted the valve cover, and I got some oil and a new oil filter. I got 5 liters of Castrol GTX Ultra Clean 5W30 and just a CarQuest filter. Doing the first oil change ever on the 5.3, and it doesn't look all that good. It's not looking great. I did pour a little bit of Lucas in the oil, and I had a can of SeaFoam, and I was reading the SeaFoam, and it says you can put it in your oil, you can put it in your gas tank, you can put it in here and there. So I put a little bit in the oil. So it could be a mixture of SeaFoam and Lucas. I'm just going to change the oil and see what happens. Okay, she's a little bit dirty under there, but yeah, I never painted the oil pan or cleaned the oil pan or anything. Part number R85522. That's the one I have on there right now, but she's coming off. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't think I've ever used this wrench before, but it seems like the right one for the job. Oh man, somebody had that on there. I got my drain pan under here, so I might need it for this. Okay, I'm going to take this here filter, R85042, flip her up like this. I'll take some of this here oil. And I'm going to give her the sideways pour here. Oh, look at that. Perfect. And I'll give her a second to gurgle it down. Gurgle, gurgle. Oh shoot. Okay, I think that's enough. She's pretty much full. I don't want to spill it all over myself when I'm installing it, but I don't want it to run dry either while it's filling the filter, or when I first start it. It's also a good idea to take some oil and put it on this rubber seal gasket here. Then I'll go underneath and put it on. Okay, I have a theory. I definitely put the wrong oil in, but 1030, that's probably not that big of a deal. I put a little bit of Lucas in there, so that might be why it's a little bit thick. And I put a little bit of SeaFoam in there as well. So I have a theory that maybe the SeaFoam, maybe the SeaFoam collected all the carbon and all the gunk, and because there's none up here. I remember there was a bunch in the intake and the throttle body was all covered in carbon, but there's none here, so that's kind of odd. But maybe the SeaFoam collected all the carbon and deposited it into the bottom of the oil pan, because that's where all the heavy stuff might sit if it doesn't get collected in the filter. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm hoping it's just like SeaFoam and carbon from the SeaFoam treatment, but I guess time will tell. That's just a theory I have. These are the new Mr. John 613 funnels, available on my website for $79.95 plus tax. No, I'm just joking. That would be funny though, wouldn't it? So yeah, clearly I did the wrong thing before, so I'm gonna do the wrong thing again. Don't do the things that I do. Just don't. This is diesel fuel, and I'm pouring it in my engine. Gurgle, gurgle. Straight diesel fuel. I can hear it coming out down in the drain pan. That's like a flush. I'm just gonna flush. If there's any sludge in the bottom, this should flush it out. Well, she's coming out the other end. That's a good sign, I guess. Maybe a little bit more from above. Oh yeah, just flushing her right out. Flush out all that gunk and junk. I'm just gonna let it drain for a couple minutes. I want everything to run out as much as possible. I got the new oil filter on there, and I just tightened it up with my hands, tight as I physically could. Okay, I drained the oil, removed the filter, I flushed out some of the gunk. I put a new filter on, filled up the new filter with oil. I just put the plug back in, so I guess we're ready for the good stuff. And this is what I'm using. I never really liked the 520, 530 type stuff, and the cap on this engine calls for 530, and I was like, oh, this is a junkyard motor, I'll just put some 1030 in it and it'll be fine. So I don't know, maybe that wasn't the best idea, but I'm going to put in the proper stuff, what it calls for. It calls for 530, so that's what I'm going to put in it this time. Gurgle, gurgle. The funnel's staying in there. I'm surprised it is. I better not jinx myself. So I put some of this, there's 5 liters here, and I put some in the filter. And I'm probably going to put all the rest of it in the oil pan. Should probably take 5 liters. This oil pan is shortened and modified, and the oil pan was pretty clean internally when I changed it and modified it. So hopefully all that gunk is just from the SeaFoam. I don't know. I'm pretty sure the head gasket's fine because the coolant is up. Coolant's not going down at all. Look at the sexy paint job on those valve covers. Oh my goodness. I'm going to scrape some of this yucky yuck off of the gasket surface, or the mating surface, from the head to the valve cover. So I put a J-cloth over the valve, over the rockers, and I tucked it in. I tucked it in really good, so I don't care if the crud falls anywhere. You could also use a vacuum, maybe do this and vacuum at the same time. But the J-cloth is going to catch most of the, all it is like aluminum oxide, like just white powdery crud. So most of it is going to land in the J-cloth. I don't want it to land on my rockers. I don't want to get it in the oil. So I'm just going to scrape the mating surface best I can. And there's only a couple spots that need to be cleaned up top here. And the rest of it looks pretty good actually. This is probably the worst out of both sides. This is the worst here. But overall, things are going good. I got the new valve cover all painted and ready to go on. And the gasket surfaces, like everywhere else, they're nice and clean everywhere else. One valve cover. Two valve covers. Yeah. So I got this one painted up. Got her all painted up with the VHT high temperature wrinkle finish paint. That looks way better. It was pretty bad, especially the driver's side one. It was pretty corroded and yuck looking. So I have to put the coil packs back on before I can fire it. I got fresh oil in there. Yeah, these coil packs, I cleaned them up a little bit, but it's kind of a shame to put these rusty coil packs on such a clean motor now. But they'll do for now. I might take them apart individually and paint the brackets and stuff later. Or maybe I'll find some coils that aren't quite as rusty. These ones are a little bit rusty. But for now they work, so I'm just going to put them back on. I wipe them down and degrease them a little bit. And then I want to fire it and see if the new oil, see if that helps. I want to make sure the coil packs ground well where they bolt down. So I took the little wire wheel on the drill and just set it in there, and it cleans up nice. So I got some bare metal there, and I'll make sure I'll try to make sure I get a good ground all the way across. And I cleaned up these pilot inserts and stuff as well. I was doing some research last night on the SeaFoam in the oil, and it's supposed to remove the carbon buildup even way up top, so that's probably why it was so clean, and that's probably why there's so much gunk down in the bottom. Pretty optimistic about that. Pretty confident there's no problems like head gaskets or anything. Check the coolant, there's lots of coolant, it's not going down at all. So I'm pretty confident that was the SeaFoam. So I got everything back together again, and I'm going to fire it up. I think the fresh oil is going to make a big difference because the stuff I took out was so gross.